country is gripped in grow your own fever, and it's easy to see why, because there is nothing more exciting than growing fistfuls of your own homegrown veg. If you do want to grow your own, you can't beat raised beds. They're great for drainage, they're good if your back's a little bit bad, plus they stop compaction problems because you don't need to walk over the soil. And it doesn't even matter what soil you've got, because you can always import good stuff and grow in that instead. Now, for a permanent affair, you could just use brickwork or new, untreated railway sleepers. But if you want to get growing super duper quick, why not make them out of deck boards? Creating the frame is really straightforward. The first thing to do is, of course, cut your ends and your sides to size. Now, if you can't access the bed from both sides, try not to go for a width that's wider than 1.2 metres. Otherwise, you'll end up treading all over the bed to tend your crops, and it, well, almost defeats the object of the raised bed. To hold the corners together, I'm just using these 2x2 pegs that I fashioned from pre-treated timber. Drop the corner pegs down about 25mm below the top of the boards, so that when the bed is full of soil, you don't see the top of the pegs. Then fix the pegs to the end boards using clamps to help keep everything in place. Once the posts are screwed into the end boards, position and clamp the sides. Screw these in place using deck screws, making sure that you pick ones that are long enough to go through the board, as well as going well into your corner peg. We're using 1.5-inch screws. Using a square is the easiest way to check that all your corners are in good shape. But you can, of course, double check by measuring the two opposing diagonals, and if both measurements are the same, you know you're spot on. OK, Loretta, can you grab that end there?
Yeah.
And then we'll move the frame into position. Then we'll line it up with the edge of the hedge here, and we'll give ourselves enough room to get a wheelbarrow down. That's perfect. OK, now what we need to do is to square it up, bang the pegs in, and then level off the bed. One thing we need to do before we skim off the turf and we dig over the bottom of the bed is we just need to dab a little bit of preservative on the end grain of my corner pegs there, just so that when they're covered with soil, they don't rot. When you're happy with the position of the frame, gently hammer in the pegs using a mallet. Use an offcut of wood and hammer on this so that you don't damage the pegs or the boards. So with the frame in position, I'm now going to remove the turf. Using a half moon and edging iron, I'm just going to work my way around the outside of the bed using the boards as a guide. I'm then going to skim off the turf with a spade on the inside. Now, because we're on an ever so slight angle here, I'm just going to take a little bit more soil off this side so that I can drop the board slightly lower so it's all nice and level. Well, that's the edge cut in. All I need to do now is to remove the turf. Unfortunately, you do need to remove the turf if you're building a raised bed on turf, of course, because if you don't, it will only impede the progress of deep root crops like parsnips, carrots and potatoes. Don't chuck the turf though, stack it grass side to grass side near the compost heap, and in a year or so you'll have a wonderful loam which you can use to mulch around your plants. So with all the turf stripped off, we can now dig over the soil to a spit's depth, and a spit is the length of a spade, or in this case, a fork. Once we've done that and levelled it off, we can then add more soil to bring up the height to the top of the boards. There we go, looks good, doesn't it? Now, a word of advice, don't be too quick to start sowing seed or planting transplants, because you may find that the soil sinks quite dramatically. Give it a week or two at least, and then you can come in and top up any low spots before you get growing.